what made Matthew ill?
That's a good question. We were told it was kidney stones.
This is Holly McFeature, a mother, a fiancée, a woman who psychologically poisoned her partner, 31-year-old Matthew Podolak. But what she doesn't realize is that detectives already know the drink that sealed his fate. Antifreeze, hidden in his everyday beverages.
Did you give Matthew any type of antifreeze?
No.
Now McFeature will try everything to convince investigators she's innocent. But her casual explanations won't be enough to stop the story she's been spinning for years from crashing down.
This is the father of my children. My fiance. The person I was going to spend the rest of my life with. I'm not going to hurt him in any way possible.
Late on Sunday, July 30th, 2006, paramedics in Cleveland, Ohio were dispatched to a distress call from a local home. Holly McFeature made a call alongside her kids after her fiancé complained of deep abdominal pain, seeming deeply confused and distressed. But when an ambulance arrived, he refused to allow her to ride with him. She was forced to drive behind in her own car to Parma County General Hospital, even arriving ahead of the paramedics. Hospital staff and first responders treated 31-year-old Matthew Podolak, an industrial worker at Phoenix Industrial Finishes, who lived in Cleveland with his fiancée, Holly, and their 3 kids. He had 2 children with Holly and helped raise her daughter from a previous relationship. Matthew was described in court records as devoted to his children and engaged in his local community, even playing amateur hockey in his spare time. Known for his work ethic, his sudden hospitalization shocked everyone who knew him. At Parma Hospital, Matthew was admitted with severe abdominal pain and metabolic imbalances consistent with kidney injury. Just days prior, doctors diagnosed him with kidney stones, giving him pills to take the pain away. But the pain had rapidly increased. Holly went along with this, all about how they'd been told Matthew had kidney issues, her narrative portraying a sudden medical emergency rather than a crime. Staff described her as concerned and cooperative. At this stage, first responders and hospital personnel had no reason to suspect foul play, and were solely focused on figuring out what had caused the sudden decline. But as you're about to see, Holly's confusion over why Matthew's kidneys were failing out of nowhere is nothing more than a theatrical performance worthy of a Razzie Award. Little does she know, the science is showing something very clear. Toxicology later revealed ethylene glycol, the toxic compound found in antifreeze, in Matthew's system. This chemical, commonly known to Holly at the time, became the cornerstone of the investigation. While she acted bamboozled as to how her husband ended up in such a bad condition, forensic evidence told a different story, a deliberate poisoning. Investigators would later piece together how the substance entered his body, creating a clear trail of evidence that became too obvious to ignore, whilst contradicting what she told detectives. Holly McFeature is first read her Miranda rights at the station, and immediately after she seems confused over what the whole interrogation process is. The detective clarifies that she may decline to give a statement or provide one voluntarily and clears up the confusion.
I just have a question. If this was the way it was going to be, why didn't you just tell me?
No, remember I told you, I said you could either give a statement or you could decline to give a statement.
Oh.
You don't have to give me a statement now.
Oh, like right now?
Right now we're going to
Oh, I
take your
thought there
statement.
was like questions and stuff. You said that there was like police reports and stuff you wanted
Yeah,
me to
I'm going to go
answer.
over stuff, but that's all part of the investigation.
Oh. Okay, well.
I mean, it's up to you. If you want to give us a statement about it, we're going to ask you questions.
That's fine. I mean, I don't have anything to hide. I didn't do anything, so.
Okay.
I mean, if I don't feel comfortable answering a question, I can just say.
You say I decline the answer, or.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
I mean, you don't have to give me a statement at all if you don't want to. You can have an attorney with you.
Now Holly makes a big point of immediately highlighting her innocence. From the very start, she wants to establish a friendly rapport with the detectives. This is a subtle way of setting some form of control over the situation. While in her head, she's positioning herself as cooperative, calm, and rational. She seems to be missing the fact that seeming so upbeat and eager to talk about such personal tragedy is often a sign of someone too desperate to come across as relaxed. What Holly's trying to do is paint a picture of early beginnings in a stable, loving household. She mentions moving in while pregnant in 2003 and references her children by name, creating a sense of warmth. Even when minor household problems are acknowledged, she frames them as trivial inconveniences. Whether intentional or not, this projects innocence, stability, and normalcy, qualities she wants the detectives to associate with her. This is only the first of many prods she'll have to brush off from the detectives, though.
Drink.
Water. He drank pretty much water or juice, that was it.
What type of juice?
Juicy juice.
Juicy juice in the box?
No, it was juicy juice in a bottle. We got it free from WIC,
Okay.
but we really didn't drink a lot. He would take it to work.
Oh, he worked? Where did Matthew work?
Phoenix Industrial.
What type of beverages did you drink?
We mostly drank water at home. That was pretty much it. That or milk.
And juicy juice?
Juice, yeah, juicy juice. Comes
Mostly
in a-
water?
Yeah, mostly water at home. He drank a lot of coffee at work, so when he was at home, he would strictly drink water or milk. He drank milk with his meals.
Okay.
Did you ever prepare him lunch to get at work? Or did you ever go back, bring him lunch at work?
Wait, I'm sorry, say that again.
Did you ever bring him lunch to his job?
I did twice when I was pregnant with Samantha. Other than that, no, I never went to his work. It was too dirty and it's a factory, so no, twice, and that was it. And that was when I was pregnant with Samantha, so that was 2003, I did that, 2004.
So you never brought him no lunch after 2003?
No, not after 2000. When I was pregnant with Samantha, that was the only time I ever took lunch to him, and it was 2 times.
Well, how would he eat lunch?
He would take it.
Okay.
He would take any leftovers, and I would pack him a big thing, and he would share with all the guys at work. He would take all the leftovers to work with him, and he'd share with all the guys.
Okay. That's 6 days a week, 5 days a week?
So a lot of times he worked 5 days a week, or 6 days a week. Sometimes, a lot of times he'd work Saturdays. Otherwise, all the guys would go and buy lunch from somewhere. There was some pizza place down the street. When Tops was still open, they'd go to Tops.
So, Holly obviously knows that when you're questioned in a potential homicide, you should stick to consistent facts. And yet, rather than a clear story about what Matthew drank, she shifts between water or juice, and then milk and water, as detectives circle back to the beverages. Now the gaps in her story start to matter. This ambiguity is important because coworkers later testified she was bringing him large containers of sweetened iced tea at work. Rather than acknowledge that access, she minimizes her role, insisting she only visited twice and stayed away because the factory was dirty. This isn't a simple innocent memory lapse. It's damage control. What Holly didn't know was that police already had toxicology confirming Matthew was poisoned with ethylene glycol, and that they were just waiting for her to slip up. Now, notice the emotional tone Holly maintains throughout these early minutes. Her voice stays light, almost conversational, as she's chatting with coworkers rather than discussing the sudden death of her fiancé. Innocent spouses typically show distress, uncertainty, or at least emotional weight when recounting a partner's final day. Holly corrects detectives on dates, little domestic details, and tries to seem composed, but little does she know they're measuring her consistency, not her charm.
What was your job classification?
GM manager
You the boss?
of that department, yes. Health and beauty aids.
What was the title?
GM manager.
At that job, you have some kind of type of insurance?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, I have health insurance,
Oh.
medical, dental, stuff like that. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yes, I had medical and dental.
We were covered.
Okay.
Now, Holly hits a topic she clearly doesn't want to expand on. Holly briefly confirms that she and Matthew were covered by insurance, and what stands out here is how uncharacteristically short that answer is. Up to this point, she's been more than willing to expand on small, harmless details, moving dates, household routines, who ate what at work, the kids' schedules. But when insurance comes up, she suddenly becomes concise, almost guarded. And that's notable, because this exact topic would later become a point of dispute with Matthew's family. It's one of the rare moments when she doesn't volunteer extra context or soften the subject with anecdotes. Instead, she gives the quickest answer possible and lets the detectives move on.
Did you and Matthew ever have any fights, physically?
Yeah, there were a couple.
Did you call the police?
I know on one time I called the cops. We were during a separation period, and I had a friend over, and he came home and he didn't like to see him there. I had called the cops on him then, but he didn't hurt me. There was one time, I know when you said there was 2 police records, I only know one that I can remember.
Okay, did you and Matthew have any fights, physical? Did you call the cops? So you remember calling the police one time?
Yeah, I don't remember calling twice. There was a time where he punched me in the chest when I was pregnant with Joshua. I don't remember if I made a police report at that point or time not.
Pregnant with Jessica?
Joshua.
Joshua, I'm sorry. Did you go to the hospital or anything when that happened?
No.
Now detectives pivot to pressure points in the relationship. When Moore asks Holly if she and Matthew ever had any physical fights, her tone is again strikingly lighthearted, even bordering on casual. She admits there were a couple of incidents, then quickly clarifies that he never hurt her seriously and references calling the police once during a separation period. Even as she describes the one time Matthew allegedly punched her in the chest while she was pregnant, she downplays it. Someone as calculated as Holly knows full well that the more toxic her relationship seems to the detectives, the more reason she'd have to have killed Matthew.
What's your badge number?
836.
Okay, last question was, did you and Matthew have any fights, physical? Did you call the cops? I remember calling the police one time. One time he punched me in the chest when I was pregnant with Joshua. I didn't go to the hospital.
Yes.
So one time you called the police. Was there other times that you got into fights and you didn't call the police? Or?
Well, we're not perfect. We got in
Sure,
disputes.
no.
We got in disputes, yeah. Nothing worth calling the cops over.
Okay.
As detectives press Holly on conflicts in her relationship with Matthew, she finally acknowledges the imperfections between the two, followed by a pretty telling nervous giggle. Perhaps a subtle crack of discomfort in the, up to this point, highly maintained Holly McFeature performance. At this point, the tension in the room and in the questions is starting to build, and everyone realizes it. It's clear the questioning is starting to put her on the defensive, and this is only just the start of what's about to come to light.
You with yourself? Did he cause you to go to the hospital?
Never.
Never?
Mm-mm.
Did it cause you to ever have a miscarriage?
No.
No.
Okay.
So how many times, you had mentioned earlier, Matthew had caught you at the house with a particular guy he didn't like,
It was a friend of mine.
he didn't like the guy?
It was because he assumed something was going on when that wasn't the case. I had a friend over, we were talking, and he came home and he didn't like it. He got jealous because I had a friend over.
Now detectives want to see where she points the blame. It's no surprise that Holly immediately gravitates toward work drama when she's asked if Matthew had enemies. By painting a picture of Matthew as a man surrounded by workplace hostility, scratched cars, disputes with coworkers, simmering tensions, it sets an unpredictable scene for detectives to have to cut through. Conveniently, she doesn't know any names, even though these are all supposedly ongoing conflicts. Then, mid-answer, she abruptly shifts and adds the detail about Matthew using racial slurs, a sudden escalation. By portraying Matthew as volatile and disliked, Holly is subtly offering detectives alternate suspects, without ever being able to anchor the story into a single, verifiable person. This is classic misdirection. Create threat shadows everywhere, except herself. As you know, by the time Holly sat down for this interrogation, detectives weren't starting from scratch. They already had Matthew's full autopsy and toxicology, confirming ethylene glycol, aka antifreeze, in his system. and not in a way that matched a one-time incident. Forensic experts would later testify that the pattern of organ damage was consistent with reported dosing over time, not a sudden medical mystery. Financial records showed bank activity and life insurance details that didn't sit right with Matthew's family. Holly doesn't know it yet, but detectives are really here to watch how her stories line up, or fail to, against the evidence they've already locked in.
Call the police.
No.
Okay.
I mean, it was just like verbal stuff. I mean, nothing physical. There was nothing ever physical.
But you said he scratched his hand and scratched the car, right?
No, they keyed his car.
Keyed the car.
Yeah, they keyed his car. But there's no cameras in the garage, so there was no one ever to say who did it. See what I'm saying? No?
No.
Okay. He would come home, he would tell me, like, you know, whatever, he would come home and just vent from work. That's what he would do. And he would,
that's what girlfriends and wives are for.
no, it's fine. I'm not complaining. I don't know names. He would never say
Mm-hmm.
names. The only names I knew were the people that he like worked with on a daily basis. There was Sharon and Mike.
Were Sharon and Mike key in his car?
I don't know who keyed his car. He would just say, "Come here, you gotta see this. There's another fucking key in my. There's another key scratching in my truck." That's what I would get when I would come. You know what I mean? That's.
He wasn't making that up, right?
Not that I would imagine he wouldn't lie about it. Why would he lie about something like that?
No.
No, he would come home and no, there's no cameras in the parking garage, and you have to. It's only employees because you have to have a key to get into the parking garage. So it's obviously an employee.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only thing I mean, he would come home and vent. That's the kind of stuff I would hear. Other than that, I got nothing.
Okay. So now how many times would he come home and find people at the house that he didn't like and make them leave and get upset with you?
Just that one time.
Only one time
Mhm.
in 5 years.
It was only 3 years.
3 years?
Mhm.
Now what hospital, did he ever go to any particular hospital? Did he ever become sick or anything?
No, if he got sick, he didn't want to go.
He never wanted to go to the hospital.
No, he was a very stubborn man.
Is he?
He wouldn't go to the doctor for anything. If he got sick, he would tough it out. He refused to go to the dentist. He hadn't gone to the dentist since he was in the military. That was the last time. No, the only time he was ever walked in a hospital was when I gave birth.
No.
It's the only time.
So from the year of
Holly claims Matthew had, quote, a lot of people at work who didn't like him and might have keyed his truck, yet she can't give detectives a single name. Every time they ask who these people were, she stalls, backtracks, or changes direction entirely. Then she pivots to the idea that Matthew never went to the doctor and never went to the hospital, as if his own stubbornness explains his collapse. But detectives already had toxicology showing ethylene glycol in his system, and medical examiners had documented organ damage consistent with reported poisoning over time. Matthew's refusal to seek treatment didn't kill him. Antifreeze did, and every explanation Holly reaches for falls apart the moment it's compared to science.
2000 when you guys met, 2003 when you guys met, until the day he passed away, he never go to the hospital.
Oh wait, no, there was something for work. He had to get stitches. He got hurt at work.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, did he end up getting stitches? I'm trying to remember if he got stitches or not. I don't think he. I told him he needed to get stitches. I don't remember. I think he may have gotten stitches. He went to the doctor one time, and that was at the end, because I begged him to go, because he was sick.
He got sick? How did he get sick?
That was the problem. We didn't know. He was sick for like 3 weeks, and he was having problems.
From what to what? What month? What month?
It happened in July.
July.
Everything happened in July.
You went to the doctor before he died? You
Yeah.
went to the doctor?
On Thursday. And because he was having issues going to the bathroom,
What day did he die on? Was it a Friday?
he passed. No, it was Monday, 31st, July 31st. Yeah, it was Monday
So when
because
you
we went to the
when you
hospital
say-
Sunday
When
night.
you say Thursday,
He finally went to the doctor.
on Thursday, you know, so what was the date on that then?
Thursday? I don't know. 31st, 30th, 29th, 28th, 27th. Would be Thursday, right? 27th?
27th of July?
Yeah. He went to,
He went to the doctor before he died on Thursday, 27th of July 2006, because he went there because
oh, he was having problems. He was concerned he was having lower back problems, and we all told him, because Sharon was begging him, he was having issues going to the bathroom, and he refused to go to the doctor for weeks. He was complaining that he was in pain, his lower back, it was just getting worse. And finally, I was like, that's it. And his friend Russell gave him the name of this doctor to go to, and I took him. We finally went to the doctor, and the doctor did, he talked to him and explained to him the situation. He said, I want to get CAT scans. So we went downstairs and we got CAT scans to see his kidneys, see if he had kidney stones, because the doctor said that based on his symptoms that it was kidney stones. And then when we got the test result.
Now, the actual medical timeline dismantles Holly's version of events. Holly's story leans hard on the idea that Matthew's collapse was sudden, a stubborn man who hated hospitals and just happened to get seriously ill. But the real timeline doesn't support that at all. In the weeks leading up to his death, Matthew's health had already been sliding. He was exhausted, complaining of back pain and trouble using the restroom. On Thursday, July 27, 2006, he finally saw a doctor, who ordered scans and initially thought he was dealing with kidney stones. 3 days later, late on Sunday, July 30th, Matthew was rushed to Parma Community General Hospital, and by July 31st, he was dead. At autopsy, the medical examiner concluded he died from chronic ethylene glycol intoxication, the kind of pattern you see with repeated exposure over time, not a one-off workplace accident. Prosecutors would later argue that for roughly 3 months before his death, Holly had been slipping antifreeze into his iced tea.
They saw little pictures of kidney stones, and he gave him these little packets of pills that were supposed to help dissolve them. I don't remember the name of them. I have one at home because I kept everything. They were Urella, I don't know. It was a blue packet, and it made your pee turn green. That's all I remember, because we were laughing about it in the bathroom.
they gave him pills.
They gave them, yeah, they were little packets, and it was supposed to help dissolve the kidney stones.
Okay, that was on the 27th.
Yeah, that Thursday at the doctor's.
What hospital did he go to?
He didn't go to the hospital. He went to a place over on Rockside. It was a little medical building.
Any particular person he saw over there?
It was the I don't remember the doctor's name. I'm sure it's on the medicine at home. I don't remember him. It was somebody that his buddy referred him to. He was seeing a therapist. He was seeing a doctor for, what they call it. He went to, what was the original reason why he went to go see him? Oh, for depression and stuff like that. He went to the doctor. I never went with him. I have that prescription bottle at home as well. And he prescribed him something, I don't know if it was an antidepressant or whatever, and then he recommended him to go see this psychologist, I don't know, whatever one can't prescribe medication, whatever one that is. I know there's 2 different ones. And he was going to see him for a while. This started, it was after Josh was born. We went to him for about 5 or 6 months. That was winter. It was winter when we first started. Well, we would do couples a couple times. He allowed us to do together. But that was because, and that's when that whole situation when he punched me in the chest. And that's why I don't remember if I made a police report or not, because I threatened him that if he didn't go and get help, that I was gonna leave him. And that's when he started going to that other doctor. So listen, there's obviously a problem because I know he had to have been bipolar. They didn't do tests on him or anything, but he would have like highs and lows. You know what I mean? Like 1 second he could be happy as go lucky, and the next minute just fly off the handle for no reason. And that was when he punched me.
So to you, any person that don't go along with what you say is bipolar?
No, it wasn't that. It's just when he got upset. I mean, he like flew off the handle. I mean, no, it wasn't me that was always upsetting him. It could be about anything that would upset him. I mean, he didn't get along with his family at all. Him and his family wasn't very close, so he'd get off the phone with his mom. He'd be fighting with his mom all the time, and I'd be on the other end of it. I'm the one who has to calm him down, be like, listen, it's okay, you know.
So
we're gonna get through it. That's why he started going with therapists.
So Matthew and his family never got along?
They did not have a close relationship, him and his family at all. Not at all.
Now detectives gave Holly room to keep talking, and she takes it. Suddenly, Holly pivots therapists, bringing up an incident where Matthew allegedly assaulted her, before an unverified claim that Matthew, quote, must have been bipolar. She rounds it off by insisting that when Matthew got upset, he flew off the handle, and that he didn't get along with his own family. It's a flood of vague instability, gradually pushing the focus onto his character, his unstable life, and away from herself.
Now, Matthew was healthy until what month? You say he started having troubles?
In July.
Of what year?
06.
Detectives are using a classic interrogation strategy here. Let the suspect build their own narrative, then compare it to the hard evidence. They've had more than enough opportunity to press Holly if they wanted to, by asking broad, open questions about doctors, therapists, and how Matthew was. They're not trying to diagnose him. They're giving Holly enough rope to hang herself, metaphorically. They already know Matthew didn't die from stress, depression, or bipolar mood swings. They've got a medical examiner saying his organs were destroyed by ethylene glycol over time, not by panic attacks or family arguments. What they want to see is how far Holly will go to build an alternative universe where Matthew's death was anything other than poisoning. She thinks she's making him look like the kind of man who could collapse for emotional reasons. Detectives know she's actually exposing how desperate she is to avoid the real explanation. Someone was putting poison in his drinks.
Now, Matthew was healthy until what month? You say he started having troubles?
In July.
Of what year?
06.
Until July of 06? Same month that he died?
Yeah.
All this happened in 1 month?
Yeah. I mean, that's how quick, and he wouldn't go to the doctor. It was like 3 months. 3 weeks, and he wouldn't go to the doctor. We begged him, like even people that he worked with, he wouldn't listen to any of us to go to the freaking doctor.
Well, while he was at his house, who called 911 to get him to the hospital?
Me.
Oh, you called?
I was there with the kids. It was Sunday night.
Okay. Who called 911 the day to get him to the hospital?
She said she did. So when Matthew got sick and went to the hospital, what hospital did you go to?
Harma.
Did you go in the ambulance with him?
They wouldn't let me. I had to drive separately.
Okay, you say you went to Parma Hospital?
Yes.
They won't let you ride with them?
No.
You fought like you were, let's see, they won't let you. You followed in your own car or something, or?
Yeah, that I had to follow. I actually got there before they did.
Now, the interrogation moves deeper into the night. Everything fell apart. There Holly goes again, pushing the narrative of the distraught wife who was desperately trying to get Matthew to get help. What's striking isn't what she says, but how she chooses to display emotion. Detectives start to move the investigation from their relationship background to the night they went to the hospital. And that's when the supposed tears start, as Holly begins to wipe her eyes. But when she speaks, the tone hasn't really changed at all. It's pretty much the same unshaken Holly as before.
Okay. Did Matthew ever tell you what made him sick?
No, he didn't know what was.
Did you know what made him sick?
No.
Did Matthew ever tell you what made him sick? No, he didn't know, and I didn't know either.
So when you got to the hospital, what did the doctors tell you?
They said it was his kidneys. They said his kidneys were shutting down, and that they were going to have to do dialysis on him. And this happened. They told us this. It was like, I think it was like 10 o'clock at night when he came back and finally told us this. And we thought they were going to start dialysis right away, but they didn't start it till the next morning. And then they started dialysis.
Now the detectives begin to press. When Holly is faced with two simple, factual questions, did Matthew ever tell you what made him sick? And do you know what made him sick? She answers both instantly, with a flat, emotionless no. No hesitation, no elaboration. Her tears don't match her tone. When asked what made Matthew sick, she's flat. But when talking about hospital procedures right after, she becomes animated, because it's the only part of the story that doesn't threaten her.
Well, so much had happened in like that period of time. I mean, I could go through the whole situation if you'd like me to.
I would like for you to.
Okay. Okay, so we arrived at the hospital. I had Joshua with me because I was nursing, so my parents couldn't take him. His dad met us there, so it was me and his dad. Matt was okay, like he was there, but he was all glassy-eyed. I mean, like how he was at the house. That's why I called 911. They made him do urine in the thing. He took his urine, and that's when they said his kidneys were shutting down. He was in a lot of pain, so they gave him some drug to help him relax. Well, when they did that, he kind of passed out from it. And I remember specifically the guy saying, well, that was kind of weird. They usually don't normally pass out that quick. I'm like, well, is that something to be alarmed about? He said, no, just let him. He's in a lot of pain. This will help him sleep. So that's when they came, later on they came back and the doctor told us that it was his kidneys, that they were going to have to do dialysis. And I said, okay, so when are they going to start that? Well, as soon as I don't remember the name of the person who does the dialysis.
Notice how Holly leans on vague phrases like so much had happened and I could go through the whole situation. It sounds less like genuine overwhelm and more like someone padding time while deciding how to present her reaction. When she talks about Matthew being glassy-eyed, it's almost detached, as if she's describing a stranger rather than her fiancé, the father of her children, collapsing right in front of her. But then she suddenly becomes specific and animated when recalling the staff member who said patients don't pass out that quick. That paints a picture of a chaotic situation where everyone, including her, was clueless about the real cause.
Well, they went to go and wake him up. He wasn't waking up. And they were all panic-stricken, and they had to give him some other medication to reverse what had happened. Reverse the medication that the pain. I don't remember if it was morphine. I don't remember. They reversed it with something, and he still wasn't waking up. And all of a sudden, they checked his heart because they were concerned about his heart because they had, you know, how they have you hooked up to all that stuff. It kept going back and forth, so they checked it, and his heart started acting weird, like the rhythms were off, and they said his potassium level was low, so they needed to give him potassium, like some liquid stuff, and he drank it, And that was the first thing he had said in like hours. He said that stuff tastes like shit. I specifically remember that. It was so funny because we all started laughing because we couldn't get him to wake up. And that was the reason why he wasn't waking up, because his heart was all screwed. After that, they sent us home. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. They put him in ICU. They sent me and his dad home. They're like, listen, you need to go home and get some sleep. If anything changes, we'll call you. Just come back in the morning. So I got home. I went to bed. At like 6 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call from the hospital. They're saying, you need to come back to the hospital. I said, what's wrong? They're like, you just need to come to the hospital. So I get to the hospital.
Hospital called you at 6 a.m.?
The hospital called me. And they're like, you need to come in. I said, okay, what's going on? They're like, we can't tell you that over the phone, you just need to come in. So I raced to the hospital. He was in ICU. A nurse met me in the hallway and said, we need to put a stent in his heart, a temporary stent, something, I don't remember what it's called, a temporary something for his heart, because they were having issues with his heart. And they took me to the waiting room. They're like, you need to wait right here. So I didn't hear anything back for a little bit, so I went back in. I said, what the hell's going on? And they're like, well, we can't do the stent now because his heart wasn't cooperating to where they could go in and put the temporary thing in.
Now, the emotional disconnect becomes too blatant to ignore, as we see one of the strangest tonal shifts in Holly's entire interrogation. She describes a near-death medical emergency, with staff panicking, Matthew unresponsive, his heart rhythm deteriorating, yet recounts it with a calm, almost matter-of-fact delivery. Then she highlights the moment Matthew said the potassium drink tastes like shit, and says everyone laughed. It's a bizarre emotional high inserted into a sequence that should have been terrifying. Innocent partners typically recount such nights with trembling detail. Holly presents it like a dramatic story she's told many times, hitting beats rather than feelings.
He walked me back to the waiting room, and he said, you know, he's seriously sick. I said, well, I don't know what the hell's going on because no one's telling me anything. I said, can you please tell me what's going on? And he said, his body's shutting down. And I said, well, how is all this happening? We were just with you Thursday. You told us you just had kidney stones. How the hell's all this stuff going on? And then he's like, I'm going to go get more information. I'll be right back. So sitting there with my son still, trying to call Matt's dad, trying to get a hold of him. He finally answered his phone because I guess when the hospital called, he didn't answer his phone. He finally got there. At this point, I just remember going back and forth to that room and they kept kicking me out because no one was telling me anything. And I had my son, I was there by myself and just trying to figure. It was the worst 24 hours ever. That's all I can really say. I mean, everything just, it was one thing after another. One thing was shutting down after another. I had nurses, doctors telling me what they were doing. I said, well, just do whatever the hell you have to do. I said, what happened to the stint? They were going to try and do the stint again. That didn't happen. Finally, his mom showed up at like 10 o'clock or something. I don't even remember what time she finally showed up. And they were starting dialysis. They started dialysis because she walked in right when they were going to start dialysis. Things calmed down to a point where they could start the dialysis. And they did dialysis for about 20 minutes, half hour before they came back out and said, it's helping, it's working, everything's looking up. And then, they had to take him off the dialysis machine because his heart started giving out again. There was people all over the place. I mean, it was in and out. I kept going in and out. Finally, they let me just sit at the nurse's station with Joshua because it was driving me up a wall. 'Cause every time they were changing something, it was just nonstop. It it was one thing after another.
Things get really serious here. A doctor telling someone to know their partner is seriously sick is essentially preparing them for the worst. It's the kind of moment that crushes people. So how does a terrified, devastated fiancé respond? Holly reacts like she's talking about a scheduling inconvenience. She shifts from recounting medical chaos to creating a narrative of isolation, by emphasizing how she was basically alone, having no one telling her anything, and carrying herself like someone who wants detectives to see her as overwhelmed rather than responsible. She becomes the victim of her story. Luckily for those able to see through the theatrical performance, it doesn't seem like the detectives are buying it. But things were about to take a sharp turn, because detectives hadn't even touched the real issue yet. And little does she know, Holly McFeature is seconds away from facing a question she can't charm her way around, the part backed by hard, scientific evidence.
Did you give Matthew any type of brake fluid?
Brake fluid? No.
Did you give Matthew any type of antifreeze?
No.
Well, what the hell
This is
made Matthew what made Matthew ill?
That's a good question. We were told it was kidney stones.
Okay.
That's what we were told.
Okay.
And then when everything happened and they did the autopsy, that's when they said that it was something else.
Oh, like you said, did you give Matthew any type of brake fluid or what else?
A brake fluid was the first one. Poison was the second one. And the third one was antifreeze. The no was the response to all three, right?
Correct. This is the father of my children, my fiance, the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with. I'm not going to hurt him in any way possible.
Did Matthew have any reason to take his own life?
No.
Was he in the shoe?
Now this is exactly why detectives waited so long to ask these questions. They needed to see how Holly behaved before. And then the second the word antifreeze hit the air, and her entire demeanor fractured. She starts with firm, robotic denials. But the moment Detective Moore presses her on this, the room gets as loud and tense as it's been the entire time. She even ends the moment by abruptly insisting she'd never hurt Matthew, right as the detectives fall silent and start typing. The timing feels off. It doesn't land in a genuine way. It feels more like she needed to say something, anything, rather than sit in the discomfort of how that exchange just went. Almost like she was trying to patch over the tension or pull herself back into control after the room shifted in a direction she didn't like.
Is it the fact that while you were at the hospital with Matthew, you took his debit card and withdrew some money out of his account?
No. That happened like 4 days after he passed away, and the only reason why I did that was so I could pay the bills.
Isn't it a fact when you left the hospital? Is that it? You left the hospital?
While he was at the hospital.
I'm gonna guess his family told you that bullshit, cause that's just...
No, the family.
No, you could check the records. That never happened until after
why
the
did you
funeral.
write it then?
Because his mother filed charges against me, claiming that I stole
So it's not
money
bullshit
that
then,
belonged. No, because first of all, that money is our money. That money needed to go towards the bills, and that's where all that money went to. He was the main supporter of our family. He had just deposited his check on Friday. The rent needed to be due on the 5th. All the bills needed to be paid because he hadn't paid anything. Not that everything was just sitting there on the desk. I had to pay all that stuff. Everything was due. That's where every single bit of that money went. All that money. Rent was $800. Gas bill, electric, everything. His whole check went towards bills. It's not like I went on a shopping spree. I love how that was. If I would have fought it, I guarantee I would not have had to pay.
Now Holly's composure finally cracks. The calm act begins to drop as the subject of taking money from Matthew's account in the hospital comes up. When they confirm that this was true and Moore pressures her, suddenly it becomes our money in her eyes. Her voice gets louder, her gestures sharper. For a second, it feels like nothing more than someone relitigating an old argument she's been having for years. What this fire stems from is the bitter relationship with Matthew's family. A day after his death, Holly was claimed to have drained his bank account and later pled guilty to forgery after Matthew's mother filed formal charges. The family had already grown suspicious after her emotionless behavior at the funeral, to which she claimed she cried in the car, instead of in front of everyone. Little does she know, this anger only reinforces what detectives already suspect: motive. Now, detectives aren't walking into the next phase blind. Co-workers reported that Holly frequently brought him large drinks, and one witness later recalled seeing a bottle of antifreeze sitting openly on her kitchen counter. Her former friend, and briefly her legal advisor, Mark Marshall, told investigators he'd initially believed her claims about paint exposure, but after reviewing Matthew's medical reports, he concluded it was scientifically impossible. It's an understatement to say that her timelines don't add up, because from potential work enemies to doctor misdiagnosis to work-related poisoning, she's given so many half-hearted directions to throw detectives off that there's barely a coherent timeline to begin with. Forensics already confirmed chronic ethylene glycol poisoning, the kind that only appears after repeated doses, impossible to mistake for workplace exposure. The next question would hit Holly harder than any before. What Holly doesn't realize is that detectives aren't circling her. Little does she know, they're closing in. She spent this entire time building alternate explanations: workplace drama, bad kidneys, paint fumes, misdiagnosis. But what she doesn't know is that investigators already have something far more damning than any medical theory or timeline contradiction. A witness came forward with a statement that only the killer could have triggered, a statement that Holly believes never left the room where she said it, and the detectives are just seconds away from putting it in front of her.
Drinks. When you wanted to stop putting something in his drinks, his kidneys started to fail.
Excuse me, no. No. I never put anything in his drink, so I would never say I did.
For over an hour, they've let Holly talk, redirect, minimize, and rewrite entire chapters of her life with Matthew. But this is a direct question stemming straight from a witness statement detectives already had in their file. The man detectives hint at wasn't a stranger. Jameson Kennedy was someone Holly later dated. He told investigators she once broke down during a night of drinking and admitted she had put something in Matthew's drink, and that when she stopped, his kidneys began failing. This wasn't rumor. Kennedy became a key witness at trial. His account aligned perfectly with toxicology, something Holly's alternative explanations never could. This evidence shows someone heard Holly describe poisoning Matthew in her own words, and it lines up perfectly with toxicology, something no alternative story she's offered can survive. Holly's face when she realizes what the detectives have says it all. As soon as the detectives reach the end of the first part of the question, specifically the word drinks, the frown flickering across her face lasts less than a second, but it tells 1,000 words. The micro-confusion, the evaluation, and the composed answer. Though Holly's kept up the act throughout, moments like these show the cracks of a rattled woman slipping through. That's not the reflexive "what? Who said that?" response you typically see from someone shocked by a made-up accusation. It's a brief internal check before deciding the safest route is a clean, direct denial.
Okay, did you ever pull a gun on Matthew or try to run him over with the car?
I never pulled a gun on him because he's the one who had the guns. And no, I tried to get out of the driveway one time and he was behind me. I never tried to run him over.
Detectives use this opportunity to confront Holly on all cylinders, hitting her with incidents that are documented one after another.
And one time he was behind you in the driveway or something?
I was trying to get out. It was the time when we were fighting and he wouldn't let me leave. I never attempted to run him over.
They let her talk not because they believe her, but because liars typically overcorrect on events that can be disproven or give details that can be used against their narrative later on. Her answers get shorter, safer, more mechanical. That's the signal they're pushing in the right direction.
Is it the fact that you poisoned Matthew?
No, it's not a fact because I didn't do it. I didn't do that.
This is detectives tightening the net. They move from the smaller incidents to the fatal question once again. Holly's really not offering explanations anymore, just distance and repetition in the hope they'll stop pressing. Despite the overwhelming evidence, Matthew's toxicology, the witness statements, and the timelines she couldn't hold together, Holly still refuses to admit the truth. She clings to her constant denials and attempts to maintain some control of the situation, trying to convince detectives she's the only one in the dark. But her refusal to confess won't shield her from what's coming next. At no point did Holly McFeature ever confess, not during the interrogation, not after her arrest, and not in the years that followed. Her final statements to detectives directly echoed her first. She didn't poison Matthew, didn't know what made him sick, and insisted every accusation was wrong. She never asked for a lawyer during questioning, choosing instead to keep repeating those denials. Only later, once indicted, did she obtain counsel for trial. But even then, her position never changed. But silence and repetition couldn't shield her. Toxicology proved chronic ethylene glycol poisoning. Witnesses described her access to Matthew's drinks, and her shifting explanations collapsed under forensic review. Holly McFeature was arrested in July of 2012, 6 years after Matthew Podolak's death, when a Cuyahoga County grand jury indicted her on 2 charges: aggravated murder and contaminating a substance for human consumption. The indictment followed a lengthy investigation and newly evaluated toxicology findings confirming chronic ethylene glycol poisoning. After her arrest, she was held pending trial, and the case moved through the standard pretrial process. McFeature was represented by court-appointed counsel, and her defense filed challenges focused on the medical conclusions and the reliability of witness statements. None of the motions succeeded. With the charges upheld and the evidence deemed admissible, the case moved to a full jury trial in 2013. The trial began in July 2013 in Cuyahoga County. Prosecutors laid out a methodical, evidence-driven case. Matthew Podolak had died from chronic ethylene glycol poisoning, confirmed by toxicology and reinforced by the medical examiner, Dr. Daniel Galita. He testified that Matthew's kidneys showed damage consistent with repeated exposure, not a one-time ingestion, and not a workplace accident, directly contradicting Holly's long-standing claims about paint fumes from his job. Witness testimony became the backbone of the prosecution. A former boyfriend of Holly's told the jury that during a night out drinking, she broke down crying and admitted she had been, quote, putting something in Matthew's drinks, a statement he said he initially didn't take seriously until learning the true cause of death. Another witness reported seeing a bottle of antifreeze sitting on Holly's kitchen counter, and co-workers described Holly regularly bringing Matthew large containers of iced tea, the same drink prosecutors argued she used to administer the poison. The defense countered with a very different story, that Matthew had committed suicide, pointing to his gambling habits and emotional struggles. They challenged the medical findings, questioned witness credibility, and claimed prosecutors couldn't prove Holly administered anything intentionally. But the forensic evidence, the timeline inconsistencies, and eyewitness accounts outweighed the defense's narrative. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury returned with a decision that would define the rest of Holly McFeature's life. In August of 2013, after 3 days of deliberation, the jury found Holly McFeature guilty of aggravated murder and contaminating a substance for human consumption in the poisoning death of Matthew Podolak. The verdict concluded a years-long investigation into the cause of Matthew's fatal ethylene glycol exposure. On August 28, 2013, Holly McFeature was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Her conviction carried no additional consecutive terms or fines. Public records confirm she is serving her sentence at the Ohio Reformatory for Women. Judge Nancy Margaret Russo emphasized at sentencing that the killing involved deliberate, repeated poisoning over time, consistent with expert toxicology evidence presented at trial. McFeature will not be eligible for parole until 2043, marking the earliest point that she could seek release. Holly McFeature spent years portraying Matthew's death as a mystery no one could solve, but science, witness testimony, and her own fractured explanations told the truth she never would. Justice finally caught up with her, and Matthew's family, after years of doubt, grief, and unanswered questions, received the clarity they deserved. If you found this video informative, make sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video. Let me know in the comments what case you'd like to see covered next.